So I woke up Friday morning feeling pretty bad about things. But by the time I went to bed Friday night, it was a whole different story. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. If you share my concerns, maybe you could like this video and subscribe to this channel and maybe even click that little bell that will notify you when I post something new. So ever since our defeat in the election in Virginia on Tuesday, I've been in a bit of a depression, I must admit. What did it take to get me out of that depression? Well, on Friday, we saw exactly what it would. In the morning, we got a jobs report showing that the economy had added 531,000 jobs, a new height, and with the unemployment rate falling from 4.8% down to 4.6%. This is quite a bit over the expectations of economists. And as a result, it's considered a big win for the administration and seems to show increasing positive outlook as to the economy. What's more is that wages went up as well by a pretty substantial margin, with an increase of 4.9% from a year ago. And the industries that are doing particularly well are the service industries, which really suffered as a result of the pandemic, especially leisure and hospitality and retail and business services. Manufacturing, too, showed an uptick. And what this seems to indicate is that with the pandemic in at least a period of some decline, people are feeling more comfortable going out and traveling and going to restaurants and using other services that really, typically, they really stayed at home to do. So the high demand for goods rather than services, which has kind of been creating the supply chain pileup that's been a little bit of a weight on our economy, maybe we'll actually be getting some relief there. The fact that manufacturing was doing better seems to indicate that, yes, the supply chain issues are retreating a little. So this jobs report was an unambiguously good one after a couple months of, frankly, a little bit of disappointment. Frankly, the report seems to indicate something that many of us have been talking about, namely that getting rid of the expanded unemployment benefits, which happened now a couple months ago, would not impact employment positively. Well, at the same time, the biggest issue our economy was facing is still the pandemic, and getting the pandemic under control, which President Biden is trying to do with the vaccine mandates, is really going to be the top priority of getting our economy back on track. So this jobs report is really a big win for the policies of President Biden and the Democrats. Then, to make matters even better, at the end of the day, we had news that the Democrats had passed through the House the $1 trillion infrastructure bill. And what's more is they'd gotten a commitment from the moderates in the House that they would vote for the Build Back Better agenda by November 15th, as long as the CBO scoring didn't show any major issues. Now, we have to remember the Congressional Budget Office, or the CBO, is the nonpartisan organization that will look at legislation to determine its impact upon the deficit. Now, the CBO said, quite correctly, that the Trump tax cuts would have a massive impact on the deficit. Of course, the Republicans were perfectly happy to pass that because it gave a bunch of money to billionaires. But now that we're trying to give money to everybody else, well, we need to worry about the deficit, of course. Now, given the fact that all Republicans are against the Build Back Better bill, because again, it gives benefits to people, as opposed to only almost all Republicans who are against the infrastructure bill, we need to make sure that we keep every single Democrat on board and that they are able to vote for the Build Back Better bill. So as a result of some very impressive legislative work by both Speaker Pelosi and President Biden, they are able to get everybody on board and get the infrastructure bill passed and get a commitment for the Build Back Better agenda to pass. Now, one more point I want to make about this is that all too often, the progressives in the Democratic Party have been the group everybody likes to blame for the problems of the Democratic Party. I think now we see that that is really false. The progressives were rightly concerned that the moderates would turn their back on the Build Back Better bill if they simply passed the infrastructure bill without getting some type of commitment for the Build Back Better bill as well. So the progressives were using the little leverage they had to try to make sure that the Build Back Better bill would also get passed. Well, President Biden has been calling moderates both in the House and in the Senate to try to get them to support the Build Back Better bill so that the infrastructure bill could also pass, thus assuaging the concerns of the progressives. Well, as it turns out, the moderates would not do what was good for the party based upon the requests of President Biden. On the other hand, the progressives, once President Biden approached them and explained the stakes and basically called on them to pass the infrastructure bill for the good of the party, even if they couldn't get a final vote on the Build Back Better bill as well, they were willing to back down and do what was in the good of the party. So now we know where the problem is. The people who are willing to do what's good for the party are the progressives. The people who are causing all the problems are, quite frankly, a small group of moderates who, as I explained in another video that I'll link to over here, really are misreading the political environment. By refusing to pass the incredibly popular financial legislation that the Democrats are pushing through the House and the Senate, they're not going to attract the Republicans who are, frankly, driven by culture wars. It's literally two separate sets of issues that the groups are concerned about. And as I point out in another video that I'll link to here, the biggest issue Democrats have to be concerned about right now is the fact that the rank and file are getting frustrated. They feel we worked so hard to get the Democrats into office and we're going to lose it without getting anything done. So once again, we can see it was the progressives who put party and country before their own concerns. And it's the moderates who are essentially continuing to hold Congress hostage. Well, for now, though, let's set that aside and just all celebrate the great success that Democrats have had and look forward, hopefully, to the passing of the Build Back Better agenda and also to some of the voting rights legislation. Well, if you agree with me or disagree with me, I'd love to see your comments down below. And if you give this video a like and subscribe to this channel, that'd be a huge help. I'll also put the link up here again for the video that I mentioned in this video. I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.